member. And when she first called me, I said, Karolyn, Congressman Green is one of our biggest supporters. You know, and even though he's Republican, we're going to support him. She says, I will be an even bigger supporter. And I guarantee you I will win. And it's, it has been a very, very good partnership between Karolyn and our community. Of course, she used to represent a much bigger part of Astoria. Now Congressman Crowley represents a big part of our community. But Karolyn became the chairperson of the Hellenic Caucus. The Hellenic Caucus now has 138 members in the United States Congress, along with Congressman VRAKA. They are co-chairs. She went to Greece, she went to Cyprus on many occasions. And every time we need support, whether it's a resolution or a letter regarding the Cyprus issue, the patriarchy, the Macedonian issue, anything that we have, Karolyn reacts immediately, and she has been an unbelievable support. So I want to thank all of you for supporting her, for coming here. Also Savas Sirkos, who came all the way from New Jersey. Savas, by the way, his congressman is Frank Malony. So Frank Malony is another one of our biggest supporters. So we have, this is an election year. Karolyn is going to win. The issue of having this fundraiser is not because we're afraid that she's going to lose. It's what we call in Greek philotimo, our way of showing our appreciation for what she has been doing for us. And Nikos Pafidis is here from Investors Bank. They allowed you to come to Investors Bank? Yeah. I don't need a mic. So I want to thank all of you for coming. I want Nikos, as the host here, to say a few words. Nikos? He doesn't like making speeches, but he's going to say a few
words. Well, I just like to thank Karolyn for always being with us. Whatever we ever asked Karolyn, she was always on our side. As Philip said, she visited Greece, she visited Cyprus, she visited my hometown Athena, and she ate the halloumi, she cannot do without it, she just told me. But
members of the press, National Herald this year, along with, besides photographer, Lead Stackers, and of course, Hellas.
And Sigma.
And Sigma, who are here with their cameras. Covering it. Mr. Antoniadis this year was also going to write reports to Cyprus. So I'm not going to ask anybody to make any other speeches. Let us speak first, and then we'll say a few words. Congresswoman Karolyn Malony.
Thank you so much, Philip and Nikos, for really being such rocks in my life and being so helpful and supportive. I will never forget that first race, and no one thought I could win. And when Philip and the Pancyprians decided to have this fundraiser for me, I felt like I had died and gone to heaven. And we had this wonderful event in this great restaurant, and they had the Greek dancers here and champagne, and it was just a great event, and it gave me such strength. And I'll never forget, when my husband passed away, all of the Greek cab drivers just showed up at the church to drive people to the next place. It was just such an expression of friendship and support that I'll never forget. And many people say that a woman never forgets who dances with her on her wedding day, but believe me, no one running for office forgets who is there supporting them in elections. And every election is an important election, and it's you never know, really, you never know. So you have to continue getting support, getting the mail out, getting the reach out to the community, because it's if you don't have the votes, you can't get reelected to serve. I remember when I founded the Greek caucus, it was the day after the Turks invaded EMEA and planted their flag, and it was like one headache after another that we were constantly fighting on the floor of Congress. And I felt like if we had a caucus, then we would know where our votes were, because they were very frisky back then, the Turks, and there were these anti-Greek votes all the time on the floor, and I'd have to run down and find the votes and do all these letters and defeat them, but it was a lot of work. So I thought if I had a caucus, you would know who the people are, and you would know where your votes are. Now we have 138 votes that we can count on. We need to get the word out through the press that everybody around America should urge their Congress members to join the Greek caucus, because when you have the membership, you know you have the votes. And I'm very proud that once we created the Hellenic caucus, they didn't bother to go to the floor again. There's never been another anti-Greek effort in any way, shape, or form on the floor of Congress, because our numbers were so strong. At one point, we had almost 200 members of the Greek caucus, and we were the second largest caucus in Congress, preceded only by the humanitarian caucus. So it's been a great success, and I've had a friend and partner on the other side of the aisle to work with, Mr. Bilirakis first, then his son, Gus. And it was with Gus that I went to Cyprus this past year with Ileana Ross-Layton. It was an official governmental, we call them CODELs, but meetings on the peace process in Cyprus. Many people see the ingredients of a possible peace solution, and I, for one, see an energy and a commitment in President Anastasiades that I admire. First of all, you have to believe you can get it done, and he believes he can get it done, and he's worked very, very hard for it. And there is a commitment, too, from the United States government. Vice President Biden was visiting with him, and rudely, when he went to Erdogan, they did not even send an official to meet with him because of the tension after the alleged coup that they're trying to blame on the Greeks and on the Americans and on everyone else except for themselves. But in any event, that was an unfortunate situation. But I was very hopeful, and I believe Vice President Biden was, that given the new discovery of energy, that this was an area where there could be some type of peaceful deal. When you go to Cyprus and you see the beautiful, peaceful countryside and really the open spaces, you know even more how outrageous it is that 40,000 illegal invaders are on the island. There shouldn't be one. And it's just a huge army that is in a very peaceful place, and it's an absolute outrage that they're there. We did go to the Green Line. I've been there before, but this time we had a very extensive tour of it, and it was heartbreaking. It was like a ghost town of a strip, and you would see these beautiful old homes, and the trees, the devastation had been so long that the trees were growing out of the ground, and it was just totally deserted. Such a wasted opportunity. And when you go to Famagusta and to Varosha, you see this gorgeous town that is now a ghost town, completely gray, dusty, overgrown. They told us that we should not take photographs. This is off the record for the press. Of course, I snuck my photographs, and I would like to bring them back here at some point for another meeting, because it really is something to see it. We were able to see the secured areas that people are not supposed to be able to see. And we met with many ministers. I wanted very much to meet with both sides, because I don't know how you have a peaceful settlement if you don't talk to both sides, but I was not the head of the delegation. Ileana did not feel that we should even bother to talk to the Turks, but personally I think we should. And how do you have a settlement if you don't talk to the other side? And that is one thing that Anastasiades seems to have created a very good relationship and a positive working relationship with his Cypriot, Turkish Cypriot counterpart. But as we know, it's Erdogan in Turkey that's calling the shots, and some people feel that with the developments with the coup that it now looks impossible, but when you're in my job, it's hard to stay in it if you don't feel like you can get a success done, that you can't get something done and pass it. So we will continue pushing for that effort. I've been told tonight, actually by Philip, that President Obama will be going to Greece and meeting. Pardon me? Pardon me? He might go.
He is going.
He's going.
He's going?
No, he's going.
Anyway, the inside information is that November 14th he will be going to Greece, but it has not been officially announced.
Okay.
Well, I certainly will be reaching out to him for representatives from the district that I represent, who are the leaders in the Cypriot American movement and also the Greek American movement, to be part of this delegation and to be part of this historic effort. And I am hopeful that he will use the strength of his position and the strength of his heart to try to negotiate a better treatment for Greece in the forgiveness of debt and in the time of repayment of the debt. Everyone, the head of the IMF, every economist has said, Stiglitz has issued a report on it, that it's absolutely unsustainable. And when I went to Greece, when I came in from the airport, I just counted the number of stores that were closed. And the economy is still extremely challenged in what is one of the oldest and most beautiful places in the world. I was there for a special event where one of my constituents, two of my constituents, John Kasmatidis and George Stephanopoulos, were being given the wonderful consideration of a stamp in their honor. And the ceremony...
We have two princes.
Yeah, I know. But I was there, and George was not able to go, and they gave me the honor of accepting his award for him. And we were in the beautiful museum that they have built for the Parthenon marbles. So you're in this gorgeous museum that you're looking up at the Parthenon, and you can't help but think, why aren't the marbles back here in Greece? And if you read the history of it, the British say that they paid the Ottoman Empire. Well, the Ottoman Empire didn't own them. They were an invading army, and they had no right to sell the history and legacy and beauty of the Greek heritage. So I truly believe that the time is ripe to move the international, national, and American public to support bringing the marbles back to where they belong, where they were created. It was created by Greeks for Greeks. It belongs in the museum at the Parthenon. The museum was built for that purpose. So that is a bill that I've introduced along with many others to support the Greek American community and to support the Cypriot community. I'm very proud of my efforts here in America for the Greek American community. I've worked very closely with Hanek to put up 3 senior housing developments, Yakovus and the George Duras, and also the Presbyterian Church, which was built with 202 money, which is a federal money for senior housing. They are continuing to put up other projects. I was hoping that Angie Duras would be here tonight for that, and also the park that goes into Queens on 31st Street. I secured the federal funding to build that park, and the East Side Connector, which is connecting into Manhattan, will have a stop here in the Sunnyside Yards, which is very important for the economic development, I would say, of Queens, a very important part of Queens. All I can say is that I did see some statues in the Capitol, and I inquired about them, and they have these rotating statues of liberty fighters. People who fight for liberty, and they rotate them in or not. And I'm gonna have some water, you got it. I was gonna see, I've been given the honor of some people have called me Bubalina. I don't deserve the honor. But this summer when I went to Greece, I had a special trip over to Bubalina's home so I could see where she lived. And she literally was murdered on her balcony there. And, you know, she's the only woman in history to become an admiral. And she was notorious for fighting the Turks, and she even had her own flag. She had her own flag, her own army, her own ships, and fought for the Greek independence. So I'm going to inquire and see if we can get a statue for Bouboulina in the capital, because she definitely was a freedom fighter for the country that gave us our democracy and so many of our principles and so forth. Now, every year I keep introducing legislation on Macedonia is Greek. And I think we have to remember that what happened is after George Bush was re-elected the second time, the day after he was elected, he then recognized Fyrom and the name. Personally, I found that a tremendous insult to the Greek American community, and I have continued to put in legislation that calls for it to be clarified. Otherwise, it's very confusing. When you say that...
Reverse. We have to reverse that legislation.
Well, I don't know. To reverse it's going to be hard, but let's qualify it and then reverse it. I'm all into incremental steps. And I'm trying to get it qualified. At the very least, if you discover an artifact and it's in Macedonia, no one knows where it is. They'll think it's in Fyrom. They won't know that it's Greek Macedonia. So I think it's important historically. I think it's important to have that clarified, and I think we have to remember who made that happen. The Patriarch continues to be under assault. I was a speaker at a United Nations conference in Turkey about 5 years ago, and I tried to see His Eminence, and I asked the State Department. They said it was impossible to see him, and I called Father Alex, and Father Alex arranged it. So I was able to get over to see His Eminence. And at the time, he was hopeful that Haliki would be opened up, which was the area that trained our priests, a school, very, very important. But that hasn't moved, and they continue to try to really strangle the rights and liberties of the Patriarch. And this is something that we continue to do letters on, make phone calls on. I do want to mention that St. Nicholas, what a wonderful rebuilding that we're having of that wonderful church that was destroyed. I thank very much Governor Cuomo for his support to support the church and to support the Greek American community in the rebuilding of it. And as we talk about rebuilding, I want to mention one of my constituents. I wish you would stand up and tell him what you're doing with the Capitol Dome. He won the contract to renovate and rebuild the Capitol Dome. And he says he can take us on a tour of it. And why don't you stand up and tell us a little bit about it? Because I didn't even know he did it until he told me today. Why don't you tell people about it?
So it wasn't through political connections.
It's totally merit, totally merit.
Well, actually, this is an old news. We won a contract back in 1999, and we started